There's always only this one step, and so you give it your fullest attention. This doesn't mean you don't know where you're going. It just means this step is primary, the destination secondary. And what you encounter at your destination once you get there depends on the quality of this one step. Another way of putting it, what the future holds for you depends on your state of consciousness now.
A mass shift in consciousness is happening right now on the planet. Something our souls have unconsciously been waiting for eons. Many of us have consciously been waiting for this for quite some time too. The star seeds, the light workers, the way showers. Today I want to bring everybody's attention to what's actually happening on the planet right now. So humanity and this entire reality goes through different cycles, and these cycles tend to last around 26,000 years. I think it's about 25,920 years. And these are vernal cycles. And it's difficult to pinpoint when the next cycle begins when you don't know when the last cycle began. And that's something that astronomers have a really difficult time with. However, our astrologers do have their own opinions about this. And they believe that we've moved into the age of Aquarius around 2012. And of course, things haven't changed overnight since 2012, but things have been increasingly different since then. Now, what are these cycles? Imagine that it's an oval, and I've talked about this before. And on the underbelly of the oval is the Dark Ages, while on the top of the oval, the crown of the oval, we have the Golden Age. And this is a, 13,000 year long process here and a 13,000-year-long process here. Many minds in the spiritual community, myself included, believe that we have been on the ascending side of this oval, of this cycle of consciousness since about the Renaissance area. And of course, since the Renaissance, many things have happened. We've had lots of wars. We've had a lot of things that don't necessarily seem like they would be a part of a new earth, a new age, of a golden age. But of course, to get from point B to get to point A, it's always going to be a journey. So even if we are on the ascending side of it, a lot of negative things have happened to humanity in that time span. Now, if we've entered the age of Aquarius and we're right on the precipice of entering this golden age, we would experience a mass awakening. So in the underbelly, again, the Dark Ages, it's when we literally forgot ourselves. We don't know who we are. We don't know why we came to Earth. We don't know, we just wake up and we have stories that we hear from our ancestors, from our grandparents, our great-great-grandparents. We have our historians, but we don't really know when we got here, what we came here to do, what the point of any of this is. We just have forgotten. We are in the dark. In this time, medicine is non-existent. It took so long for people, I think we didn't really start to understand bacteria and how people are getting sick until the last couple of centuries. We are literally in the dark. We can't see who we are. We can't see why we're here. We don't know what's going on. And because of this, we have wars and poverty and lack and violence and famine, because we are cut off from our source. We are cut off from our true nature. And this is the underbelly of the vernal cycle, of the cycle of consciousness. And now, on an individual level, some people begin to awaken. But in order to really truly reach a golden age, we have to experience a mass consciousness shift, a mass awakening. Right now, we're experiencing that mass consciousness shift on the planet. How do a lot of people start to awaken? How do a lot of people start to expand their consciousness? Many people have to go through very difficult things in their lives for their triggers, for them to be triggered and for that awakening to begin for them. So a lot of challenges, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, those things trigger an awakening. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be that way. An awakening can be triggered through meditation, through plant medicine, through just one day the divine touches you and says, look, this is what reality really is. So on an individual level, people start to awaken on their own time and their own path, and it's all perfect. But what happens when the entire globe, all of the earth, all of the humans on the earth start to experience the same challenge at the same time? Well, that's where we find ourselves here in April 2020, March 2020, 2020 basically, let's say that. We find ourselves triggered as a collective, and this triggering is causing mass awakenings. Now, what I want to talk about today is third, fourth, and fifth density consciousness, but also this dark age and this golden age phenomenon. So in the golden age, what can we expect? What will we experience? Education will be different. The money financial system will be different. The way that we interact with one another and connect to one another will change drastically. It's already changing. We will start to understand that we are part of the earth, that we are of the earth and not separate from it. And with that understanding, we'll start to treat the earth and treat each other vastly different. Now, have you noticed this awakening in your own life, in your own journey? Or have you noticed, for example, in my own life, my friends are suddenly coming to me. Friends that I would have never expected to ever talk about anything like this, and they're saying, oh, you know, there's this dark government, there's all this stuff, there's this Q person, and we've been lied to our entire lives. What's actually going on? Are aliens real? All this stuff. And it's so incredible to see the awakening that they're experiencing. I had an old coworker come to me and say, this is my starseed origin. And when I read her text, I was like, wow, we're here. We're here. We've come here. It is happening on a mass scale, on a massive scale. People are awakening to who they really are, to the fact that they are light workers, that they are starseed, that they are way showers, that they're more than just their physical human body. And this awareness comes with its negatives, right? So a lot of us, a lot of the people watching this now have been in this community and have been in the spiritual world and have known these things for many, many years. But when something happens so overnight for people and suddenly they're getting all this information and they're freaking out because everything they knew was a lie and reality is completely different than what they expected, imagine how scary that could be for them. And that's when we enter fourth density. So the goal is actually to dip into fifth density, to remember the big picture. That's what I want to talk about. So consider that the majority of human beings begin in third density consciousness. So that's very physical. What's physical is real. If it's not physical, if you can't touch it, it's not real. It's a fairy tale, it's made up, it's a lie. Conspiracy theories are just conspiracy theories, and I come here, I was born, I don't know why I'm here, science rules everything, maybe I have a belief in God, but really, I know that I'm going to die one day, and I just gotta hustle, and, you know, succeed in this society, in this dominant culture. And there's this virus right now and I'm terrified and everyone's gonna die and everyone's gonna get sick and I'm so nervous and I'm so scared and I'm so anxious. That's where a lot of people are finding themselves. That's third density consciousness. Now understand that there is no better or worse. It just is. Everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own path and everybody's going to get to the end goal. Everyone is. No one's going to be left behind. I don't like when I see those things that people are saying, you know, raise your consciousness now or get left behind. That's simply not going to happen. Everyone's going to ascend. Everybody's going to raise their consciousness and everybody gets there one day because we all leave this physical body and enter somewhere else, enter a different body or enter the in-between states. We all go to the same places, but there are ways to handle this that are therapeutic for yourself, for your family, for your friends, and for the earth. And that is entering the fifth density consciousness. So raising our states of consciousness right now could be really, really beneficial for ourselves, for this experience on earth. So now many people, my friends and my coworkers included, are moving into fourth density consciousness. And understand that even if you're in third density, you often dip into other densities as well. And the same, if you exist primarily in fifth density, you can often, you're still a human being, you still exist in the physical world, you often dip into 3D and 4D also. And then there's always higher states of consciousness. So the fourth density is the people who are seeking the answers. They're like, oh, there's a dark government, there's all this. They dive deep down the rabbit hole. They realize that what ETs can possibly exist, and I'm possibly made of ET DNA, and I come from this star system and this, and oh my God, there's so much to find out and there's so much to discover. But with that, like I was saying earlier, comes a sense of fear. And the fear is different from the fear in third density. You're actually moving a little bit more over into anger and injustice. How could they keep all this from us? What are they doing to the children? What are they doing to us? How have we been this brainwashed? How have I not known all this? I'm so angry and I want to know more. And I find that my loved ones who are going through this, they're not sleeping, they're confused, they're having a really hard time. However, they're still raising their states of consciousness. So they're still going through this evolution, this transformation. And then we have fifth density consciousness. Fifth density consciousness is heart-centered being. It's understanding that you can never be affected by form. So a lot of people are afraid of 5G right now and things like that. And fifth density understanding is, this is the best way I could explain it to my friend. Imagine God being affected by 5G. That's not a thing, right? That can't happen. So these dark forces that are trying to control our consciousness, that are trying to trap our consciousness by putting up these pillars and these towers that emanate these rays that are supposed to suppress us, it's not working for them. And it's not going to work for them as long as we raise our consciousness. As long as we enter this fifth density and higher states of being. I'll talk about how we can do that in a moment. But at the most basic level, fifth density is understanding that there is so much more than just this physical life, and that we are so much more powerful than the challenges that we face on earth. That we are so much bigger than them, and that the formless can never be affected by the formed. That whatever happens to us here, we continue on. We're never born and we never really die. That whatever happens here, we continue on. We're never really born and we never die. We just keep going to the next place. And there's so much more that we still don't know on the other side of all these other dimensions and higher states of being. But what we're experiencing right now, what you and I are experiencing, is shifts in consciousness from third to fourth to fifth, maybe eventually sixth, we'll see, hopefully. And this is really an incredible time to be alive. Why do you think we have so many humans on this planet right now, the most we've ever had? That's because all our souls wanted to experience this great awakening, this moment in history, this moment in time. We all fought very hard to be here and to experience this. And fifth density thinking and consciousness keeps that at the forefront of our mind. That everything that we're experiencing right now in this physical world, we wanted to experience it. And that eradicates some of the fear and some of the anger and some of the need for calling for justice, because justice will always be served, and it's happening, and we are shifting into that. So the thing about fourth density thinking is that I feel, when I'm in fourth density, I feel powerless. I know all this stuff. I've acquired all this knowledge. I'm aware of things happening in the earth, but what can I do about it? I could spread information, true, and I should. I could sign petitions. What can we really do? The thing is, with fifth density consciousness, that's when the work comes in. That's when you can actually be of service. So as a light worker, as a star seed, as a way shower, your mission is to primarily exist in fifth density consciousness, which is heart-centered being. Making your decisions from the heart, making your choices from the heart, speaking from the heart, reacting from the heart, observing from the heart, being from the heart. Fourth density is very analytical, it's very mind-centered, it's very heady, and that's fine, and it's a step above third density because you're starting to feel a little bit more aware of what you've been trapped in, basically. Fifth density is where your power is. Fifth density is where you step up and you're like, none of this can actually touch me because I'm just going to continue on forever. I'm an immortal, eternal, spiritual being. So right now, We are on the precipice of this mass awakening. We're heading into a golden age of acknowledgement. And we've been doing a lot to get here. All the meditations, the group meditations, the raising our vibration, the raising our consciousness. There's a reason why I started getting a platform, because my message is one that was supposed to lead up to here. There's a reason why we have the internet right now. There's a reason why we're stuck home right now. There's a reason for all of this. It's all meaningful. It's all perfect. So fifth density consciousness remembers that it's all perfect. And running around in fear and panic and anxiety, the truth is that it actually feeds the dark forces. And this goes back to the concept of egregores that I talked about a few weeks ago. There's an egregore around the dark government, around this cabal. And that egregore gets fed by our fear. There's a reason why we even know that the cabal, the Illuminati, exists. There's a reason why we know that the cabal, dark government, all this stuff exists. And that's because this universe holds a catch-22 for them. On one hand, they want to operate in the shadows, right? It's a secret society and they hide in the shadows. On the other hand, they get their power from people fearing them. So there has to be rumors and tiny little bits and pieces of information because we have to talk about them. And we have to fear them, and we have to, be afraid that this might possibly exist, because that feeds their egregore and gives them more power. Now, a mass triggering of consciousness that we're experiencing right now is doing both of those things too. The third density people who are running around with their head on fire because they're so afraid, and they're hoarding, and they're distrustful of other people, those people are feeding this egregore of the dark government, of the cabal. Our mission, it's the reason why we came to be here, is to offset and to balance and to equalize. There's so much fear right now, so don't feed into that. Instead, feed your heart. Instead, feed your soul. Instead, remember who you are. Meditate. Read books like Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, Seed of the Soul, Many Lives, Many Masters. Remember where you come from. Remember how powerful you are. Remember how eternal you are. Pray, go inwards, and be generous with your love. Be generous with your energy. Be generous with your compassion and kindness. That is what a fifth density consciousness being can do to assist in this raising of consciousness and this aligning to a golden age, a new earth. Those are primarily the states of consciousness that we're dealing with right now. And I'd like to ask you, please, if you notice people in your life and people that you're, acquaintances with who are experiencing this overnight awakening, please be patient with them and understand they're getting so much information about themselves and about the world in such a short amount of time, all while a lot of chaos is happening outside. So we have to be patient with them, and if we can, be there for them without being condescending, because thinking that you're better than anybody is not a fifth density or even fourth density state of being. It's actually quite third density, and it'll dip you back in. You have to understand that we're constantly shifting between these different states of denseness, and we can primarily live from our heart, but if we allow the ego to help to make us dip into third density, which is normal, right? At fifth density, we can also feel fear, but we continuously bring ourselves back to the heart and back to the knowing that we are part of source. We are all sparks of the divine, and that we're so powerful, and that none of this can ultimately really hurt us. We're safe forever. We're just experiencing this just like we chose to. So I ask you join me in spreading compassion, kindness, and patience as Earth experiences a mass overturn, a shifting of power and governance. Let's be a part of the solution. I had to talk about this because it is the most beautiful thing that's happening, while simultaneously being one of the scariest things happening on this planet for many people. Just remember that the fear feeds the egregore that we don't. It feeds the wolf, the bad wolf. We want to feed the good wolf. We want to be a part of the solution. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to have a discussion about this. Thank you for watching. And as always, I love you. Keep your vibrations way up. Bye.